The massive ship drifted silently through the darkness of space, its metal hull reflecting the distant starlight. Tom stood at the viewport of the Galactic Council's survey vessel, his eyes fixed on the ancient derelict that stretched far beyond his field of vision. Even from this distance, he could tell it was unlike anything he had ever seen before. "Preliminary scans complete," Dr. Reed announced the ship's eye. "The derelict vessel appears to be approximately 50,000 years old." Director Reed, a tall blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, walked to the front of the bridge. His upper set of arms were crossed while the lower pair held a datapad. 50,000 years. That's impossible. No known civilization had spacefaring capabilities that far back. Tom couldn't take his eyes off the mysterious ship. As their survey vessel moved closer, more details became clear. The hull was made of thick plates of dark metal, joined together with what looked like crude but incredibly strong welds. No smooth lines or elegant design choices, just pure, brutal functionality. "Sir, we're detecting more objects ahead," reported the sensor operator. "Many more." As their ship cleared the edge of the debris field, everyone on the bridge fell silent. Stretching out before them was a fleet of massive ships, all of similar design. They floated in perfect formation, despite the thousands of years they had spent here in the void. "Run a count," ordered Reed, his voice showing the first signs of concern. A few moments later, the AI responded. "Initial scan shows 10,247 vessels of various sizes. The smallest is approximately 2 kilometers in length. The largest—" There was a pause. "The largest is 15 kilometers long." Tom pulled up the sensor data on his own screen. The ships were built like nothing he had ever studied in his years as an archaeologist. Modern ships used sleek designs and advanced materials. These vessels were different. They were overbuilt, with layers upon layers of thick armor and redundant systems. "Look at these energy readings," one of the technicians said. "They're still giving off power signatures, after all this time." Reed walked over to examine the readings. "Primitive fission reactors," he said with a dismissive wave of his hand. "Barely worth studying. This must have been some forgotten race's first attempt at space travel." But Tom wasn't convinced. He had spent years studying ancient civilizations, and something about these ships felt different. "Sir, request permission to board the nearest vessel." Reed looked at him with all 4 eyes. "Very well. Take a survey team. But don't waste too much time. These relics are clearly just another example of a failed civilization's attempts at reaching the stars." 4 hours later, Tom stood in a massive hallway inside the ancient ship. His survey team's lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The air was still breathable. The ship's life support systems were somehow still functioning after 50 millennia. "These markings," Tom said, running his hand along the wall. "They're familiar somehow." The symbols were simple, geometric shapes arranged in regular patterns. He had seen something similar before, but he couldn't quite place it. "Sir," called one of the team members, "you need to see this." Tom followed the voice to what appeared to be a control room. The walls were covered in more symbols, and in the center stood a raised platform with a simple chair. "Everything's so basic," said one of the alien archaeologists. "No neural interfaces, no quantum controls. Just physical buttons and switches. How primitive." But Tom noticed something else. Every surface was built to last. Every component was serviceable and replaceable. This wasn't primitive technology. It was technology built to survive anything. As he approached the central chair, something unexpected happened. A soft blue light began to pulse through the floor, spreading out in a geometric pattern. A quiet hum filled the air as ancient systems began to wake up. "Consoles activating," shouted one of the team members. But we didn't touch anything. Tom felt a strange tingling sensation as a beam of light passed over his body. A deep mechanical voice echoed through the chamber, speaking in a language that made his blood run cold. It was English, ancient but unmistakable English. Human DNA detected. Welcome home, descendant. The other archaeologists stared at Tom in confusion, but he could barely hear their questions over the pounding of his heart. This wasn't just any abandoned fleet. This was humanity's legacy. The news spread through the Galactic Council's research vessel like wildfire. Within hours of the discovery, the ship's corridors were buzzing with excitement and disbelief. Tom sat in his quarters, staring at the holographic images of the symbols he had photographed. His hands shook slightly as he compared them to ancient Earth writing systems. This can't be right, he muttered to himself, but the evidence was becoming clearer with each passing minute. The door chimed, and Director Reed stormed in without waiting for a response. All four of his arms were moving in agitation. "Would you care to explain why you've locked down access to the ancient vessel?" he demanded. Tom looked up from his work. "The ship's AI only responds to human DNA. It's not my choice. It's built into their security systems." Ridiculous. Reed's skin turned a darker shade of blue in frustration. "These are primitive vessels. They couldn't possibly have DNA-based security systems. Your species barely had computers 50,000 years ago." Tom projected one of the images onto the larger screen on his wall. "Look at these markings, Director. They're not just random patterns. They're a variation of ancient Earth script. I've run the comparisons multiple times." Reed stepped closer to the projection, his four eyes narrowing. "Impossible. Humans were still living in caves 50,000 years ago. Your own historical records prove this. What if those records are incomplete?" Tom stood up and started pacing. What if something happened? Something so catastrophic that we lost everything and had to start over. Before Reed could respond, the ship's emergency alerts began blaring. Red lights flashed through the corridors as the captain's voice came over the intercom. "All personnel to emergency stations. Multiple ships are powering up across the ancient fleet." Tom and Reed rushed to the bridge. Through the main viewport, they could see lights flickering to life across the massive fleet. One by one, the ancient vessels were waking up. "Get me readings on those ships now," Reed ordered. The sensor operator's hands flew across their console. "Sir, the energy signatures are off the charts. These aren't just fission reactors. There's something else. Something our sensors can't even identify." Tom watched in awe as geometric patterns of light began spreading across the hulls of the ancient vessels. They pulsed with a steady rhythm, like massive metal hearts beating in the void. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the fleet's command ship. It's asking for Tom." Reed turned to Tom, his expression unreadable. "Well, your precious human fleet wants to talk to you. What are you going to do about it?" Tom took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Put it through." The bridge's main screen lit up with a simple text display. The messages appeared in perfect modern English. "DNA make cheese kugo identify armid. Accessing historical database. Warning. LVL1 CQRITWP roto COLs active. REQUE staying secondary verification from human representative." "They want me to go back aboard," Tom said quietly. Reed grabbed Tom's arm with one of his lower hands. "This is a council research mission. You can't just." He was cut off by a new message on the screen. "Unauthorized contact with human representative DTECTED. Defense systems charging." Reed quickly let go as warning lights flashed across every sensor display. The ancient ships had just powered up weapon systems that made the council vessel's sensors overload. "Those aren't primitive weapons," the tactical officer reported, voice shaking. "If those ships fire, there wouldn't be enough left of us to find." Tom turned to Reed. "Director, I need to go back to that ship. Not just for us, but for all of humanity. There are answers there. Answers about who we were, what happened to us, and why these ships are still here waiting." Reed looked from Tom to the ancient fleet and back again. Finally, he nodded. "Go." but you'll wear a transmitter. I want to know everything you find." As Tom headed for the shuttle bay, he could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. Somewhere in that fleet were the answers to humanity's greatest mystery, not how they had risen from nothing, but how they had fallen from the stars. The shuttle carried him back to the command ship, and this time, as he approached the airlock, the entire vessel hummed with power. The simple, brutal engineering that others had mocked now seemed to pulse with hidden strength. These ships hadn't been built to look impressive. They had been built to survive. And survive they had, waiting patiently for humanity to return to the stars. The massive doors of the command ship's central chamber slid open with a deep rumble. Tom walked inside, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. This time, the room was fully awake. Soft blue lights pulsed along the walls, and holographic displays flickered to life as he approached. The central command chair, which had seemed so simple before, now glowed with internal light. As Tom sat down, the chair adjusted itself to his body, and a gentle hum filled the air. "Genetic verification complete," announced the ship's AI in clear English, beginning historical record playback. The air in front of Tom filled with images. Earth, but not the Earth he knew. Great cities stretched across continents, ships sailed between the stars, and humanity spread across the galaxy. This is impossible," Tom whispered, but he knew he was watching humanity's true history. The AI's voice continued. 53,000 years ago, humanity achieved its first faster-than-light travel. Within 500 years, the human empire spanned 1,000 star systems. More images appeared, massive shipyards building vessels like the ones in the fleet, peaceful meetings with alien species, the growth of a mighty civilization. Tom watched, transfixed, as the story of his species' forgotten golden age unfolded before him. Then the images turned dark. They came from beyond the galaxy's edge. The AI explained. "We never learned their true name. They'd brought only destruction." Tom watched in horror as strange, dark ships appeared in the recordings. Worlds burned. Fleets were destroyed. Humanity fought back with everything they had. But the enemy was relentless. The war lasted 20 years, the AI continued. Humanity would not surrender. But the enemy's technology was too advanced. They could corrupt any complex computer system, turn our own advanced weapons against us. The images showed human scientists and engineers working frantically. Tom recognized the designs they were creating. The same simple, robust technology that surrounded him now. "We made a choice," the AI said. "To save humanity, we had to hide it. We built this fleet with technology so basic that it could not be corrupted, yet so strong that it would survive until humanity rose again." Tom's communicator crackled. "Tom." Reed's voice came through. "What are you seeing in there?" "Director," Tom replied, his voice shaking slightly. "You need to see this. Our entire history. Everything we thought we knew was wrong." A new hologram appeared, showing Earth. But this time, Tom watched as massive energy weapons fired from orbit, human weapons targeting their own cities, their own technology. "The last protocol," the AI explained. "We destroyed our own civilization, wiped away every trace of our advanced technology. The survivors were scattered in small groups across Earth, with only stone tools and basic knowledge. Better to start again from nothing than to let humanity be enslaved." "But why?" Tom asked. "Why leave this fleet out here?" The room dimmed, and a new set of displays appeared, showing complex stellar calculations and deep space sensor readings. "Because they will return," the AI said simply. "The cycle is predictable. Every 50,000 years, they emerge from dark space to harvest advanced civilizations. We calculated their next arrival. It approaches now." Tom felt his blood run cold. "How? How long?" 3 standard months until they reached the galaxy's edge. The communicator crackled again. "Tom." Reed's voice was urgent now. Our long-range sensors just picked up something massive approaching from deep space. Multiple objects, moving faster than anything we've ever recorded. Tom stood up from the command chair, his mind racing. Director, get me a direct link to Earth's government. Now. Already done, the AI announced. Your primitive communications have been upgraded. A new hologram appeared, showing the surprised faces of Earth's leaders. Tom took a deep breath. My name is Tom Walker, and I'm about to tell you something incredible. Humanity isn't just reaching for the stars. We're reclaiming them. We had an empire once, and we gave it up to save ourselves. But we also left ourselves a gift. This fleet. A fleet built by our ancestors, waiting for the moment we would need it most. He paused, looking at the sensor readings showing the approaching threat. And we're going to need it very soon. Because the enemy that forced us to hide 50,000 years ago, they're coming back. But this time, we're ready for them. The ancient ships hummed with power around him, their simple but incredible technology awakening fully for the first time in 50 millennia. Humanity's lost legacy had waited patiently in the dark, and now its time had finally come. The true test was about to begin. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 30 different species argued loudly while holographic displays showed the ancient human fleet, now fully awakened and glowing with power. Tom stood at the center of the storm, watching as various council members demanded control of the fleet. Director Reed stood beside him, his blue skin pale with worry as he tried to maintain order. The fleet must be placed under council control, shouted the Regellian ambassador, his crystalline form flashing with angry red pulses. No single species can be trusted with such power. Agreed, rumbled the massive Titan representative. These ships are too dangerous to leave in human hands. They're barely a space-faring race. Tom stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. The fleet's ad will only respond to human DNA. That's not negotiable. Our ancestors built these ships for us, not for the Council. The chamber erupted again, but fell silent as new alerts flashed across every screen. The long-range sensors were showing more details about the approaching threat. 20,000 ships, reported the Council's military advisor, all larger than anything we've ever built. They'll reach our outer systems in 72 days. The Regellian ambassador's crystal surface paled. Our combined fleets only number 12,000 vessels. Even with the human ships, we're outnumbered. Tom touched a control on his wrist device, something the ancient fleet's eye had given him. A new hologram appeared in the chamber center, showing detailed scans of the approaching enemy ships. They're using the same technology they used 50,000 years ago, Tom explained. Advanced, but predictable. Our ancestors spent decades studying them. That's why they built our fleet the way they did. Director Reed stepped forward, all four arms clasped behind his back. Explain. Look at our ships, Tom said, bringing up an image of the human fleet. Simple controls. Basic but incredibly strong materials. Minimal computer systems. The enemy's greatest weapon was their ability to corrupt advanced technology and turn it against its users. But you can't corrupt a manual lever or a physical switch. Primitive technology, scoffed one of the council members. The chamber shook as the ancient fleet suddenly moved. 10,000 massive ships, each one powered up and ready, shifted into a perfect defensive formation around the council station. The display showed weapon systems that made the Council's best technology look like toys. Not primitive, Tom corrected. Purposeful. Every system, every weapon, every piece of technology in those ships was designed with one goal: to survive and win a war against an enemy that turns complexity into a weakness. The military advisor studied the scans with growing respect. The armor alone, I've never seen anything like it. And these weapon systems, they're simple, yes, but the raw power output is incredible. But why? Asked the Titan representative. Why build ships this way and then abandon them? Tom shook his head. They weren't abandoned. They were waiting. Our ancestors knew the enemy would return. They knew we would need these ships, but they also knew that if they left us with advanced technology, the enemy would corrupt it and find us too soon. So they gave us time to grow, to learn, to be ready when the ships awakened. New alarms blared. The enemy fleet had increased speed. They would arrive sooner than expected. 60 days, announced the military advisor. We have 60 days to prepare. The council chamber fell silent. Tom looked around at the assembled representatives, seeing fear in their eyes. Fear of the approaching enemy, yes, but also fear of the human fleet that now surrounded them. We have a choice, Tom said quietly. We can waste time arguing about who controls these ships, or we can work together to prepare for what's coming. Our ancestors faced this enemy alone. We don't have to make the same mistake. Director Reed studied Tom with all four eyes. And if we help you, if we add our fleets to yours, then we show them something they've never seen before, Tom replied. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to make sure there's a galaxy left to live in. The chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Then, one by one, the council members began to nod. The ancient human fleet had been built for this moment, this enemy, this fight. And this time, humanity wouldn't face the darkness alone. The real question was, would it be enough? The first attack came without warning. A small mining colony on the edge of council space simply went dark. When the scout ships arrived, they found only debris and strange, dark energy readings that made their sensors malfunction. Tom stood on the bridge of the ancient human flagship, now named Legacy. The massive ship's simple but powerful systems hummed around him as data from the attack flowed across the screens. Just like before, the ship's AI announced. They always start with isolated targets, testing our response. Director Reed, who had been assigned as the council's representative on the Legacy, watched the incoming data with all four eyes wide. The colony's automated defenses didn't even slow them down. They just stopped working. Technology corruption, Tom said grimly. The same weapon they used against our ancestors. Any advanced computer system, any complex machinery, they can turn it all against us. New alerts flashed across the screens. 3 more colonies had gone silent. They're moving faster than we predicted, the AI reported. Estimated 48 hours until they reach major population centers. Tom touched the simple control panel in front of him. Unlike modern ships with their neural interfaces and quantum computers, everything on the Legacy worked through physical controls, buttons, levers, and basic displays that couldn't be hacked or corrupted. Signal the fleet, he ordered. All ships to battle stations. The view outside the Legacy's bridge was incredible. 10,000 human ships moved in perfect formation, their massive bulk blocking out the stars. Between them, the smaller but more numerous council vessels took their positions. They had spent weeks practicing this, learning to work together. Enemy fleet detected, announced the tactical officer. 20,000 ships, approaching from 3 vectors. The main screen showed the enemy vessels for the first time. They were huge black shapes that seemed to swallow light itself. Their surfaces rippled with strange energy that made them hard to look at directly. Council ships reporting systems interference, Reed said, checking his communications. Their targeting computers are failing. Weapons systems are going offline. Tom nodded grimly. Just as expected. Signal all council ships to fall back behind our lines. Let them see what humanity's primitive technology can do. The enemy fleet accelerated, clearly expecting an easy victory against such simple ships. Their first wave, nearly 5,000 vessels, moved to engage the human fleet. All ships, execute Battle Plan Alpha, Tom commanded. Show them why our ancestors built these ships to last. The Legacy shuddered as its main weapons powered up. No fancy targeting computers, no complex energy matrices, just enormous railguns firing projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, guided by simple mechanical computers that couldn't be corrupted. The enemy's first wave met a wall of fire unlike anything the galaxy had seen in 50,000 years. Their advanced shields, designed to stop energy weapons, proved useless against simple kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Hundreds of enemy ships disappeared in massive explosions. "They're adapting," the AI warned. "Energy shields shifting to physical barriers." "Just like the simulations," Tom replied. "Execute Phase 2. Across the human fleet, new weapons emerged. Simple, brutal, and incredibly effective. Chemical rockets carrying payloads of conventional explosives. The enemy's defenses, focused on stopping advanced threats, couldn't track the relatively slow-moving missiles until it was too late. More enemy ships vanished in chains of explosions. On the tactical display, Reed watched in amazement as humanity's primitive weapons tore through the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. "They never expected this," he said quietly. "They thought we would fight like everyone else, with energy beams and quantum torpedoes. But this is like being attacked by a highly organized Stone Age army." Tom smiled grimly. "That's exactly what our ancestors planned. The enemy can't corrupt our weapons because there's nothing to corrupt. No complex computers, no advanced guidance systems, just simple, brutal physics." But the enemy wasn't defeated yet. Their remaining ships were regrouping, changing formation. The real battle was about to begin. "All ships, prepare for close combat," Tom ordered. "Show them that humanity remembers. Show them why our ancestors built these ships, and why they waited 50,000 years for this moment." The Legacy's engines roared as the human fleet moved forward. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to unfold, and at its center was the fleet everyone had laughed at, until they realized what it could do. The battle raged across 3 star systems. The Legacy's bridge shook as another volley of railgun fire launched toward the enemy fleet. Tom gripped his command chair, watching as the tactical display showed more enemy ships falling to humanity's outdated weapons. "Hull breach in sectors 7 through 9, reported the damage control officer. "Basic repairs holding. Nothing our redundant systems can't handle." That was another genius of the ancient fleet's design. Everything could be fixed with simple tools and basic materials. No complex nanobots or quantum reconstruction needed. Director Reed monitored the Council ship's status from his station. "The enemy is still trying to hack our allies' systems. Half of the Council fleet is running on emergency power only." "Move them behind our lines," Tom ordered. "Let our ships take the brunt of the attack. That's what they were built for." The enemy's remaining ships, still numbering over 12,000, had formed into a new pattern. Their black hulls seemed to ripple and shift, defying the laws of physics. "Energy spike detected," the AI announced. "They're preparing their main weapon." Tom's hands flew over the manual controls. "All ships, execute Maneuver 7. Just like in the historical records. The massive human fleet moved with surprising grace. 10,000 ships, each the size of a small city, shifted into a new formation. The enemy's weapon, a massive wave of corrupting energy, passed harmlessly through the gaps in their lines. "This is why," Tom said quietly, "this is why our ancestors built these ships this way." They knew the enemy's tactics. They spent years planning how to counter them. A new hologram appeared on the bridge, a direct transmission from Earth. The planet's leaders had been watching the battle unfold. "We've decoded more of the fleet's historical database," announced the lead scientist. "Tom, you need to see this." The tactical display split, showing new information. The enemy ship's design, their attack patterns, their weapons, they hadn't changed in 50,000 years. They had never needed to change, because no one had ever survived long enough to fight them twice. Until now. Our ancestors didn't just build us a fleet, Tom realized. They built us a perfect counter to an enemy that never evolves. Every weapon, every tactic, every piece of technology on these ships was designed specifically to fight this exact enemy. Reed's 4 eyes widened in understanding. They sacrificed everything. Their entire civilization, just to give us this chance. All ships, Tom commanded, standing up from his chair. Prepare for final assault. Formation Delta. The human fleet split into 3 massive groups. The enemy, their main weapon useless, tried to regroup, but they were fighting against an opponent that had spent 50,000 years preparing for this exact battle. Simple kinetic weapons tore through their advanced shields. Basic chemical explosives detonated against their hulls. Mechanical targeting systems, immune to their corruption, landed hit after hit. Enemy fleet at 60% strength, reported the tactical officer. 50%. 40%. The Legacy shuddered as it took another hit. Warning lights flashed across the bridge, but the ship's robust systems kept functioning. No complex parts to fail, no advanced technology to break down, just solid engineering designed to take punishment and keep fighting. They're retreating, Reed announced, his voice filled with awe. The Council's long-range sensors confirm it. The enemy fleet is pulling back. But Tom wasn't finished. He activated the fleet-wide communications, his voice reaching every human ship. All vessels, pursue and engage. Our ancestors didn't build this fleet just to drive them away. They built it to end this threat forever. The human fleet moved forward like an unstoppable tide. Their simple but devastating weapons continued to tear into the retreating enemy. This wasn't just a victory. It was the culmination of a 50,000-year plan. The enemy had forced humanity to rebuild from nothing, had laughed at their primitive technology, had never imagined that those simple, robust ships could be their doom. That was their final mistake. As the battle entered its final phase, Tom looked at the tactical display, showing the enemy's rapidly diminishing numbers. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had proven why their ancestors' legacy was worth 50,000 years of waiting. The age of hiding was over. The time for victory had come. 3 months after the final battle, the Galactic Council chamber was packed with representatives from every known species. The massive room buzzed with excitement as Tom stepped up to the central platform. Director Reed stood beside him, all 4 arms holding ceremonial medals. The enemy fleet was gone, not driven away, not defeated, completely destroyed. 50,000 years of planning had paid off in a victory that would be remembered for millennia to come. Today, Tom began, his voice carrying across the chamber. We're not just celebrating a victory. We're celebrating the most incredible long-term strategy in galactic history. The main display showed images from the ancient fleet, now undergoing repairs in orbit around Earth. The simple but incredible ships that had saved the galaxy. Our ancestors faced a choice, Tom continued. They could fight and die, or hide and give up. Instead, they chose a third option. They played the longest game in history. The display changed, showing the recovered historical records. The council members watched in amazement as the full scope of humanity's plan became clear. They studied the enemy for 20 years, Tom explained. Learned everything about them. Their weapons, their tactics, their one great weakness, their inability to adapt or change. Then they built us a fleet designed to be the perfect weapon against them. Director Reed stepped forward. The council was wrong about humanity's technology. We called it primitive. We laughed at its simplicity. We never understood that every bolt, every wire, every weapon was exactly what it needed to be. The display showed the battle footage. Simple kinetic weapons tearing through advanced shields. Basic chemical explosives destroying ships that could corrupt any advanced technology. Mechanical computers operating perfectly while quantum systems failed. But the real victory, Tom said, belongs to our ancestors. They sacrificed everything they had built, gave up their entire civilization, reduced themselves to stone tools and cave paintings, all to hide us until the right moment, while leaving us the perfect weapons we would need. The chamber erupted in applause. Species that had once looked down on humanity now stood in respect. They finally understood the incredible patience and sacrifice that had gone into humanity's victory. And now, Tom continued once the chamber quieted, we begin a new chapter. The enemy is gone. Their threat will never return. But we have something more important to do. The display changed again, showing the ancient fleet's database. 50,000 years of human history, technology, and knowledge, all preserved and waiting to be rediscovered. Our ancestors left us more than weapons, Tom explained. They left us their legacy, their knowledge, their achievements, everything they built before they had to hide it away. And now it's time to reclaim that legacy. Director Reed stepped forward, his blue skin glowing with emotion. The Council recognizes humanity's right to reclaim their heritage. We also extend our deepest apologies for ever doubting the sophistication of your civilization. Tom smiled. No apologies needed, Director. After all, the plan worked precisely because everyone underestimated us, including the enemy. The display showed new images, Earth's shipyards beginning construction of new vessels. Ships that combine the simple, robust engineering of the ancient fleet with carefully chosen modern innovations. We won't abandon what our ancestors built, Tom announced. Their philosophy of keeping things simple, reliable, and strong will guide us as we move forward. But we'll also embrace new ideas, new technologies, and new allies. He gestured to the assembled council members. Our ancestors faced the galaxy's greatest threat alone. They had to hide to survive. But that age is over. Now we move forward together, combining the best of old and new. The chamber filled with cheers as the display showed one final image. The ancient fleet in formation around Earth, its simple but powerful ships standing as a testament to the most patient civilization in galactic history. They had built their ships to last 50,000 years, had hidden their civilization to protect their descendants, had planned and waited and sacrificed everything to give humanity this chance. And now, as a new age dawned, their legacy would live on. Not just in museums or history books, but in every ship humanity would build, every world they would explore, and every lesson they would never forget. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's primitive fleet, right up until that fleet saved them all.